Hello students, if you haven't picked up a green DAS, please make sure you pick one up now from one of the drawers. We're going to have a warm-up and a closure today that you need to turn in. So here's your warm-up for today. I want you to identify A, B, and C from the following quadratic equations. If the teacher in the room can please hit pause while the students do that. Okay, so let's go over how to identify A, B, and C. It is very important for this entire unit that you know how to do that. Think back to when we were doing factoring, we identified A, B, and C. So let's go ahead and do that. For a quadratic equation, the term that's in front of the x squared, the coefficient, is always A. So in this example here, A is -1. The coefficient of x is always our letter B. So B in this problem is 8. And the number that does not have a variable next to it, we call it the constant, is the -18. That's going to be our C. So for the first one, A is -1, B is equal to 8, and C is equal to -18. Continue to the second one. The -2 is A, 8 is our B, and C is our -4. Sorry, I messed up that C. And then last but not least, our third problem, A is 2, B is 12, and C is 21. So as you can see, the numbers in front of x squared are always going to be A, the numbers in front of x are always going to be B, and the numbers by themselves are always going to be C. Now, if we had a problem such as x squared minus 36, it should be A minus, not an equals. When we have that, just don't forget that this is when B is equal to 0. We saw that in factoring, we put the 0 on the right side. If I have something such as x squared plus 6x, this is when C is equal to 0. Knowing that and remembering that is very important, like I said, this whole unit. So what we're going to be doing today, and actually this whole unit, is starting to solve quadratic equations. Remember, quadratic equations are when the highest exponent is 2. So what we're going to be doing is solving these, and we'll go over what that means today. Before we go into that, though, I would like to say how proud I am about how well you have done this last unit. These scores in the back here, these are the ones where tests are not finished, so I know that those scores are going to go up. They have done really well. Seeing that almost every student has gotten a B or an A makes me very proud of you all. And I want to make sure you knew that from me and that I did know what your scores were after Friday. I will reiterate this tomorrow when I come back. Okay, so let's take out that pink paper that the substitute needs to pass out or has already passed out to you. And I want you to take a look at this example of one that is already drawn in there. So what we're going to be doing is graphing quadratic equations first. Now, when we did linear equations drew in a very straight line. Okay, that's the key word in linear was line. Quadratic equations create parabolas. Parabolas is this U shape that you see right here. Okay, now it doesn't have to go in this direction. Okay, we could also see them in this direction as well. So I guess you can call this an N shape on the left and this one a U shape. But it's called a parabola, and the spelling is found right here. Okay, parabola. And there's a lot that's going on in the situation. So we're going to go into that in just a second. But what I want you to do is create a situation for an object that makes the path of the parabola and draw it around the path. So everybody has a pink paper. You cannot do a roller coaster because that's what I have here. So as you can see, we have Disney's Rock and Roller Coaster. And this is one of the humps that it goes up and down. So that's just one example. So you can't do a roller coaster. And tomorrow when I come back, I'm going to check on what you have done because it's part of your class participation grade 4 today. But I want you to come up with a situation that's going to follow that path. The substitute in the room can hit pause and give them about 5 to 10 minutes to do that. That would be great. Okay, so hopefully you come up with something very creative and made it very pretty. Let's go on and we'll discuss this more tomorrow when I come back. So, everybody should have a different picture on their thing here. It should not be the same for everybody. And what we want to do is identify some really key pieces about a parabola. So as I do it on my picture, I want you to write this stuff down on your picture. So the very first thing is that this piece right here is called the vertex. This is the maximum or minimum of our point, of our parabola. Now in this case, this is going to represent our maximum. So think of like domain and range. For the range, this is our highest point that we're going to be able to reach at. Okay, so if it was sitting upside down like this, then the vertex would be down at the bottom. It would be a minimum because that would be our lowest point of our vertex, of our parabola. So like I said, this is the highest or lowest point, so make sure you get that written down. We can identify this through the vertex formula. Now this is a very important formula for you to be writing down, so make sure you get that written down right now. Okay, now the vertex formula finds our x value. So it's represented by x equals opposite b. So that means if b value in our quadratic equation was negative, we would write a positive. And if it was positive, we would write a negative. All over 2 times a. So we're going to identify a and b. We're going to do this negative b over 2a. And you're going to see how to graph from there. So this only gives us our x value. So this is, for example, in my equation, if I did negative b over 2a, I would find 8. So now I need to figure out how high it is. So just like we did in linear equations, we're going to plug your x value into your equation to get y. Now we don't have the equations for this, so we can't do it right now. But when I do, I would find that I would get this point right here, the highest point that exists. So that looks like it's about 13, but I don't want to make assumptions, okay? So that's what we would do first. And you're going to see a video shortly on how to do this again. So now there's 2 other pieces that I want to point out to you. The first one is this piece here. Now, according to my graph, this is essentially our where our roller coaster is starting, or our parabola is starting. Okay, there's a lot of other names for this. We're going to call this the x-intercept. So if I ever ask you for the x-intercept, I'm looking for where is this parabola crossing the x-axis. Now in linear equations, in y equals mx plus b, the b is the y-intercept. So this is a little bit different. We're actually looking for x-intercepts. Some other words that this is known as is solutions, roots, and zeros. Okay, so as you can see, these have 4 different words. So if I were to ever reference any of those words, you should be able to identify them. Now there's another one here where it hits again. Okay, so this is where it's hitting a second time. So this is where it's hitting the ground. Okay, so where it's starting and where it's hitting, again, I'm putting the quotations because this is an equation. It's going to continue on forever and ever. We just don't have it in this picture. This is also another one of the x-intercepts, solutions, roots, or zeros. So when I ask to solve a quadratic equation, I'm looking for these 2 points right here. Okay, our x-intercepts, these are our solutions, our roots, or our zeros. We're first going to learn how to find these solutions by graphing, and then we're going to learn 3 other methods. So speaking of which, what we're going to do now is if the teacher substitute room can pause this video, and we're going to play the second video that is found on the website right underneath this one. Everybody in the class, please make sure that you take notes on all 3 examples. If you don't finish this video in class, then you're responsible for completing it for homework. If there is still more time after the end of the class, though, do the survey. You can either do it, write it down on your notebook, or you can fill it out right online there. In either case, both of these things are responsible for you to complete for homework. So tomorrow I'm going to be checking it with all the examples and the survey. If the teacher in the room can please hit pause and then return here for the closure. Here's your closure for today. List 3 real-life examples of parabolas in your world. Remember, they could look like an N or a U. I'll see you tomorrow.